it's nice to see you through the internet. I hope you're doing well this evening, and welcome to 30 Plays in 30 Days, a live arts retrospective. Thanks so much for joining us. We have a very strange and amazing surprise for you. So if folks are intending to join you, tell them to hurry on up. We're gonna do the performance first thing, and you're not gonna wanna miss it. My name is Temminnk. I'm the Interim Technical Director at Live Arts, and tonight we are going to be talking about the 2017 to 2018 season at Live Arts. And we have some delightful guests who will be joining us soon, but before they do, I want to give a shout out to our community partners, My Dance Shop, aka The Hip Joint. Megan and her team are amazing. Megan's such a creative and wonderful member of our community, and they've got great reusable masks, leggings, all of your dance needs. So go check them out and support her. And yeah, get your family ready. I will say that the first 10 minutes of this performance may not be appropriate for all ages. So if you're under 14 or over 35, you may need to avert your eyes. There's a little adult content. So parents, I hope you make the choice that's right for you and your family. And this will be a section from Hand to God by Robert Askins. So I am going to go dark. We're going to bring up our performers and we're going to start the show. Enjoy. Thank you all so much. That was so
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're also going to bring on right now, while everybody's get settled in, Sarah Cain, who was part of the show as well. She was the producer of Hand to God, so we'll bring Sarah on. But yes, I'd love to go through and just have everyone introduce themselves. Cristan, do you want to start us off? Cristan Keighley?
Sure, I'm Cristan Keighley. I directed Hand to God, and it was I don't know, top 3 theatrical experiences of my life. It was incredible cast, incredible script. I've been acting, directing, and sound designing since I think 1991 was my first show. And that's really about it.
Awesome, thank you. Julian Sanchez, how about you?
Hi, I'm Julian Sanchez. I played Jason and Tyrone in Hand to God. Like Cristan, it's definitely like one of the top experiences in theater that I've ever had. And I was an undergrad at the time. I was a 4th year at UVA when I did the show.
And Gwyneth?
The one rehearsal that Julie and I had together, just the two of us, was the day he got his acceptance call. So he came bounding into the rehearsal space and told me he was going to Yale, and I was like, all right, well, let's see if I can figure out anything to say to you in the next hour. That's great.
That is a good memory, Cristan.
That was great.
Gwyneth, how about you?
Is that my cue? I'm Gwyneth. I played Jessica in Hand to God. I had a wonderful time doing the show. It was very, very nice to venture out of the UVA bubble. And then I ended up interning at Live Arts last spring as well.
Awesome. Cool. And then we have Kerry Moran and Mark Rylander, I think. Maybe
Mark Rylander, who came in at the last minute to have puppet sex. I made the, oh, he lost his head. I made the puppets and the other props, but the puppets, which were the big thing because they're characters. So
we're going to talk to Kerry a lot more in a bit here, and also Sarah. But Sarah, would you introduce yourself as well, just briefly, before we get into more?
Hi, yeah, I'm Sarah Cain. I was the producer on Hand to God. This was my, I think, 3rd time producing at Live Arts. I first joined in like 2013 when I came and worked on Grey Gardens. And I am now at the Yale School of Drama with Julian. So we got 2 Yaleys in the bunch. And this was also one of my absolute favorite shows I ever worked on. It stands out in my memory.
Awesome. Well, so we will talk with Kerry and Sarah in a moment, but I would love to talk with Gwyneth, Julian, and Cristan just about, like, we don't do puppets that often, and I'm curious how that differs from your typical theater or acting experience. Gwyneth, do you want to start us off with your perception?
Yeah, sure. It was wild. Definitely was a lot harder for like the first 60% of rehearsals, and then once you got it, like it was fairly easy to get back into the swing of it. But I think the weirdest thing to really learn was that I think when you go to imitate a puppet, like if you're saying someone is a chatterbox and they just go blah 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 blah, you're like moving your hand down. And I think the first lesson I learned, I don't know if Julian relates to this, but the first thing that I was told once we were like breaking out the Jolene puppet was that when you're speaking, you actually have to open the mouth instead of closing it to make it look like it's realistically talking. So even just that slight thing, it was so weird to get into the habit of opening the mouth when they would actually be opening their mouths. But I just remember that being like the biggest hurdle for me to get over.
Yeah, I was saying to Cristan when I was rereading the script in preparation of like today, even just rereading the script, I'm like, I don't know how we did this play. Like, I don't know. And I think it was because there was like a blissfully long rehearsal process. And like, I don't know, Cristan like was truly like any decision, like any impulse, just go for it. And so it felt very like lawless. But I definitely remember a lot of like car rides home from rehearsal after like really, really difficult times with Tyrone where I was like, I don't know what we are doing. I don't know what we're doing. Yeah.
I could tell when you had been up all night in the bathroom with your puppet. You'd come in the next rehearsal and just have a completely new dimension to him, or he would Tyrone would. What was interesting to watch was the separation of your personalities, because if it started out and you guys were kind of unified, you know, looking in the same direction usually and whatever, and as you became more aware of your limbs and his mouth or whatever, you'd be talking here and he'd be off doing business over here, and that got you both got more differentiated as the rehearsal process went on, and it seemed like every 3 or 4 rehearsals you'd come in and he would just have a new dimension to him. It was really it was fascinating to watch. It was fun.
Did you all find it easier or harder to channel a character through a puppet? Was there what did that feel like?
I would say, I don't know, like maybe easier because like hard technically, but like easy in the sense that like Tyrone was so mischievous that it just felt like an exorcism or something. And I will just never forget the rehearsal where like Kerry brought in probably like 5 different Tyrones, like the one with the jacket, the one without teeth, the one with this, and I was like I don't know. Yeah.
We're just a few.
So many.
Yeah. People don't realize that, you know, Tyrone is not a static character. He starts out, he starts out as an innocent little church puppet, and then is gradually possessed by whatever, Jason's id or the devil himself, who knows. And he grows teeth. His face change, he gets a scar. He gets bloody. He has to bite off Timothy's ear. So, he's not a static character. And Kerry had to create 5 different puppets for each performance. I mean, not for each performance, but each performance required 5 puppets, and they kept breaking. They had sticks that would come off. They had eyes that would fall off. I had to glue Tyrone's eye on just before this tonight, and it was just a constant battle.
They had to be washed and dried. And
yes.
They had to rotate through. So because one wasn't dry enough to be used in the next performance.
Right. And Chris Kelly and who else? Yeah, they'd have to, after each performance, they're doing their duties and then be upstairs soaking the puppets. And I don't know how late they were there every night, but bless them for making that happen.
One night we set one on fire.
Did we set one on fire?
With the hairdryer, yeah.
Oh, that's right.
I never heard that story.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
I thought if you shove the hairdryer in the puppet, then it would dry it faster. But what happened was the heat built up, and they're made of nylon, they're polyester basically, and it ignited, which,
So it was a literal smoking Tyrone.
No, I mean,
Exactly.
I think that's a brilliant idea, though, Kerry. I give you points for that.
Oh, and yeah, and smoking Tyrone, Kerry, bless you. It was one, like, back the spring before we even auditioned to this, I walked into the Live Arts office and I said, there has to be one character that smokes in this play, and it's Tyrone. And Kerry made it happen. It was
with Mariah Johnson.
Right.
We could not have done a lot of this without her, because she's like the blood and blood and scar expert.
Oh yeah, she did amazing work for the show. There were people like were in shock when Timothy's ear came off, and then blood spurting. People like they really thought Tyrone had bitten his ear off. It's incredible.
Mark Schuyler with the exploding light bulb, and there was a lot of stage.
Oh, right, the end of Act 1, I forgot, was like the freak out with Tyrone. And I just had a memory earlier when we were talking about Hand to God that, like, by the end of the run, I think the Liar was beginning to rehearse downstairs. So sometimes after a show, we would come like blood soaked down the stairs as like the Liar cast was like rehearsing their like fun thing. It was just like so Virginia with like blood on her. It was very funny. Yeah.
So lovely. Does anyone have any last stories or comments they'd like to share before we look at the season? Nope. Alrighty. Well, look forward to seeing you all at the end of the show. But thank you, Cristan, Gwyneth, and Julian. Really appreciate your performing and joining us this evening. See you in a little bit.
Thank you, Annie.
All right. So, Kerry and Sarah, hi.
Hello.
Yay. I'm so excited to get to talk with both of you. I think what we were talking about earlier is just how many roles you both have played in theater. And I feel like there's a great bravery and a specialness to being able to switch roles, and often feeling like it's scary enough to imagine being an actor or working behind the scenes or doing lights, but to be able to shift into each of them, I think is such a really unique quality that you both have. So I'm excited to talk more about that, and maybe we can pull up the slideshow and just share some of your memories from the different productions, 2017 and 2018. Yay.
Wonderful. So the first show of the season was A Delicate Balance, directed by none other than Fran Smith.
Yeah, that's a real powerhouse show with a really incredible cast. And, we've got Boomy Pedersen and Chris Baumer, Jamie Vraska, Jane McDonald, Tim Reed, Kerry Gardner. And what's special about a show like this is, and Fran directing it, is that it's really an actor's show. And Fran kind of lets them reach the highest level that they're capable of. I mean, she gives them the space to do what they're good at. This was Gwen Gillam's first set, I think, in the upstage. She had just recently moved back to town, and Fran had wanted this entire space to feel like the living room, and pushed it to make that happen. Anyway, if you didn't see it, you missed something special. Edward Albee, classic American playwright, and this has an element of the absurd, and Jane and Tim were really responsible for bringing that part into, those characters bring the absurdity into the play.
I just love this picture of Chris and Boomy on the couch. I think it's super sweet.
Yeah.
All right, up next was Sweet Charity, a big musical directed by Maria Rife. We had Kristen Baltes music direction, and then amazing choreography by Heather Powell. I love this photo of Daryl front and center. And then you had Becca Vervulis as Charity here. this show was just so spectacular with the choreography. They really were able to pull out the Gibson stage as far thrust as they could to really give everyone the opportunity to dance. And it's a super, super dance heavy show. So Heather's choreography was front and center. And a lot of the people in the show had been in Guys and Dolls, and you have, Lindsay Goodridge. She's in the center here with the cape, and Amalia over in the corner. And an amazing performance by Chris Patrick sitting on the...
It's another show where Chris Patrick shows his versatility. It's a musical. You know, you might not think of him in a musical, but he's often in a musical.
Also, I just heard that it's Kristen Balt's birthday today, so happy birthday, Kristen.
Happy birthday.
Kristen and I worked on, the first show I ever worked on was Grey Gardens, as I mentioned, and Kristen was the music director for that, and the band was up at the balcony like they are here. We called them the Balcony Trio at the time, but the band was amazing for this show. Top Girls. Oh my goodness. Top Girls, directed by Betsy Tucker. This show is so amazing. The first act, you enter into the theater and you're treated to like all these badass historical figures, women historical figures around a table having a full like 7-course meal. And the props for that show were done by Ann Shelton. The meal was so extensive and had to be set up every night that they actually brought in Ava to do food styling. So she would get there like 2 hours early to cook a meal and do that whole scene. It was really incredible performances. Claire Chandler in the lead as Marlene.
Now, I believe that Betsy Tucker directed this years before, and this was a re-exploration of her relationship with Carol Churchill, which one of her favorite playwrights. The floor was done by Community, and the set designer taught people how to do faux wood for this floor. And I remember being in the audience where there were a couple of people say, I did that plank, you know, because they were so proud of having learned how to do this. And it's, you know, it's not easy.
Was that Matthew Cornegay that did the wood construction? Awesome.
Yes. Yeah, he was an MFA in the design program at UVA at the time.
Yeah. And, you know, as is typical with a Betsy show, she brings in a lot of new people. She brings in people who are at the university, people who haven't been on stage before, and then she mixes them up with people who've been involved at Live Arts. So this cast is not your, you know, the usual cast of characters by any means.
Yeah, was that Jen Bottis's first show?
She had done some summer shorts, I think.
Gotcha. Oh, Fun Home. So I worked on Fun Home. I was the props designer. This was directed by Miller Susan. An amazing, amazing show. It was our mentor apprentice show. So it was not only a full production team of adults, but we all had 2 or more mentor or apprentices. We had Violet Craighead-Way here with Jeff Dreyfus doing the I can see all of Pennsylvania moment. And I worked with Violet on her first show. She did Les Mis. She was little Cosette. This was just so much fun. And I think the first show that we think it was the first show that Julie Savitsky did at Live Arts?
I think it's Julie's first show at Live Arts. And, you know, one of the, Warren Craighead's daughter was in it, and Warren encouraged Julie to draw, and, you know, because she was playing a cartoonist. And so Julie filled notebooks during the show. She kind of learned how to sketch during the process.
As the props designer, we had a conversation about whether or not I should do all the drawings, which was not going to go very well, or if Julie wanted to like make that part of her character, and she did. It was really amazing. She played, you know, the oldest Allison, who is both the narrator and also in and out of the show. Just an absolutely stunning performance. You guys have Melissa Charles here as the mom, and she sings some pretty heartbreaking numbers in the show. And then Mare in the back, who was middle Allison.
Just a little something we threw together.
Yes, hand of God.
This was a really big show in a really small space, and the puppets really were other characters. I mean, you might have thought of it as a 5-person show, but it was crowded in there.
I believe it was the fastest selling show in live arts history up until recently with Men on Boats. We sold out after the first performance, and then we extended the run, and we sold out that day as well. You already met some of the actors, Julian, of course, and Gwyneth, but we also had an amazing performance by Virginia Warner as the mom, and James Stanford as the priest. It was his first show at Live Arts. And Evan Post, who played Timothy, the bad boy. And this was a Will Slusher set. So always magical. And the coolest thing was, in Act 1, you have this pristine space, and then Tyrone and Jason destroy it. And so we had a lot of fun coming up with ways to just do bad things to the set. At one point, I was painting a pentagram upside down on the set, I think during Tech Week. Good time.
Love it when that happens.
Yeah. And you just saw that picture right there is a recreation of the scene we just read. So, yes. The Liar.
I designed the set for The Liar. And, usually when I design a set, the way I look at designing anything for a show is that I have 2 clients. I'm an architect in real life. So I have 2 clients, the script and the director. And usually I get I meet with the director and we have a conversation, and I get a strong idea. And Mike Long directed this, and I have to say this was probably the biggest sales job I've ever had to do on a set, because when I read it, and I suggested this play in the first place because we weren't really doing it. I felt like we needed this kind of a comedy. We hadn't done something like this in a while, and Bree put it forth to the committee and read it. We read it, and it seemed timely, with the lying and all. And so I read it, and I just envisioned it in the round, and I was fortunate that Bree agreed with me, and it took a while to convince Mike, but once we talked him into it, he ran with it big time. And, it really made me, really happy. It was directed from every point of view. And my vision for it was that it would be in a garden, and then we would evoke the other aspects of it. And the roses are all made by volunteers. Tuesdays and Saturdays for weeks and weeks, we made paper roses. There are 80 of them. And, it's really gratifying when somebody comes and says, well, I don't know, this isn't really what I expected to do a build. I don't know that I do this sort of thing. And then they're doing it. And, there's one person I'm thinking of in particular, and she actually came on other days to make other roses. She was so excited at being able to do this. And it was such a great community building experience to do that. The performances were fantastic. Here we have,
Lindsay Goodridge here.
I mean, there's so many great people in this cast. Mark McLean as the liar, Chris Patrick, Kurt Musel, Katie, what's her last name? I've forgotten. I'm sorry, Katie. What?
Muhlenkamp?
Yes, Muhlenkamp. We had
Clinton Johnson. I mean, it was,
of course, Clinton, fantastic.
Jen Lawless.
Great.
His
And
multiple characters.
We had live music. Alex Davis provided live music for this show. And Mimi Halpern and Christopher, and I've forgotten his last name too, but they were instrumental in doing all the set changes. And the set was basically, you know, this fountain which spewed real water. And then the pieces came apart and they became pretty much everything else in the show. Anyway, it was fun. It was well done. The costumes were amazing. They were done by Trisha Emlet and Amy Goffman.
I was just an audience member for that show, but I will say it was the most amazing use of the Gibson space I have seen. I loved it. And then the summer musical, our teen musical was Crybaby. This was great. Thad Lane was the lead character. I love the poster for this show. That's Thad there in the leather jacket. A lot of these teens worked on Pippin, so I was lucky to work with them back then. Another super dance heavy show. These teens do not mess around. They are so talented. Again, music direction by Kristen Baltus, and happy birthday, Kristen, and choreography by Heather Powell. Just a fantastic play, or musical, I should say, based on John Waters' movie.
I mean, the thing about the summer shows, the teen shows, is that until they age out, the kids want to come back and do them. They have such a great time. They bond, they become such good friends. They do things together outside of the show. And, you know, it's this year, you know, it's going to be different, but they're trying to do In the Heights and keep the feeling going. So anyway, there are some really game teens in this show who really threw themselves into it.
Yeah.
Oh, and a motorcycle.
It's very important to Jeremy that we mentioned that they had a live motorcycle or scooter on the stage, and it got to run and everything. This set and lighting design was both done by Steven Spera, who was also an MFA student at UVA at the time. And it was so cool. The kids were climbing all over it. And then obviously this giant space in the front where they could dance and bring a motorcycle on was wonderful. And just stellar performances. A lot of teens we've seen throughout the years: Katie Wall, Georgia Castleman, Parker Nelson, Camden Luck, all the group.
And just some summer productions as well.
Camp was very productive this year with quite a lot of variety, and I unfortunately did not see any of them, so which is pretty uncommon. I try to see everything, but anyway.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. It's fun going through those with both of you. So I'm super excited to dive in, and I think maybe Sarah, actually, it would be nice to just hear a little bit more about how you got involved in live arts and sort of what you're doing in theater now. We can tie back in.
Sure, yeah. So I grew up as a performer. I did musical theater, singing, and went to UVA for music. And kind of my last year of college started to have a bit of a breakup with the arts. I was working in psychology and actually got into grad school for psychology, and kind of thought, okay, I'm going to go down this very different track. And I was also very unhappy. And luckily I met the one and only Kit McCarran, who was my first live arts friend. And he recommended that I audition for Grey Gardens at the time. And that, like, I was just looking for a way to get honestly involved in live or get involved in any sort of performing arts. I was not cast in the show, which was actually the best thing that's ever happened, was not getting cast, because I went to Tracy Skipper, who was the volunteer coordinator at the time, and said, what can I do? Give me something. I don't care what, like, I have to do the arts again. And she asked me if I wanted to be assistant stage manager. And I'd never done that before. And it ended up kind of leading me down a rabbit hole that I've never looked back from. I went on to be the ASM. I went on to props design. Actually, that was technically, I think, what I've done the most at Live Arts. But for a while, I was stage managing at UVA Drama, at Heritage, at Live Arts. And then I kind of fell into producing, and that really became my love. I produced 4 shows. The last one was Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime last season. And I also went on Fringe team with a great group of people 2 years in a row. And during all of that, I kind of realized that I wanted to be an artistic director, and that I wanted to keep producing theater, and that while performing may have been where I started, I actually really like facilitating performance for other people and facilitating all the arts. And so I applied to the Yale School of Drama for the theater management MFA program, and I just completed my first year. So I'm currently in New Haven, Connecticut, waiting to find out if I'm gonna be taking classes online or not in the fall. But yeah, that's the goal, is one day manage a theater, specifically be an artistic producer.
That's amazing. Thank you. And Kerry, how about you? You've also done so many different roles in theater, and I'm curious why theater, how you got involved in live arts?
Well, as Oscar Wilde says, that, to paraphrase, theater is all of the arts. So we bring together art and painting and sculpture and literature and music, and it all melds into theater, which also has a temporal component, because if it's not live, it's not the same. It's different every single time. I had been doing theater for quite a while. I'd done a lot of children's theater with my kids, and then I moved on to working at the Hamner Theater and Play On Theater. And I auditioned for something called Bar Hoppers, which used to be an annual event. And I wasn't cast in Bar Hoppers, but Ray Netzel had been there, and he invited me to participate in the first 24/7 at Live Arts, where I was accidentally, because it's all accidentally, cast in a fantastic role in a wonderful play by Jenny Mikulski called Bitter Greens, directed by Sarah Holdren and also starring Alex Screbs. I couldn't have asked for a better role, a better cast, a better experience. But I was a stranger to Live Arts. Nobody knew me. Ray didn't even know me. So that was my first thing. And then shortly after that, Boomy Pedersen asked me to do the props for Glengarry Glen Ross. And I was pretty overwhelmed and intimidated by that and Live Arts and the structure and not knowing anybody and not being part of anything. And it came off, and it was a great show. And, I'm probably second guessing myself, but, I do that. And then Ray asked me to do props for Drowsy Chaperone. So I would say that I'm at Live Arts because of Ray Netzel more than anything else. And I was doing props for Drowsy Chaperone. And if you know Drowsy Chaperone, it is a props heavy show. There are wedding cakes, there are cocktails, there are hula hoops, there's just a zillion things to juggle, clouds, monkey faces, it's just on and on. And as often happens in community theater, the set designer ended up having to drop out, and there I was. So Ray said, "Okay, Kerry, can you help with this?" And I took over designing the set for Dressy Chaperone, and the rest is history as a generalist in theater, because, you know, props, set, costumes, I look at it all as kind of the same thing. It's problem solving. It's a design problem that needs to be addressed. And, you know, as I said before, the script and the director are my clients, and I just figure out how to make it work. What goes into supporting the show. And so I tend to work on, I mean, in the last season that we talked about, I worked on every single show in some capacity. I tend to work on about 3 a year, and probably not in the same, and not just, I mean, 3 at Live Arts a year, and then some other shows elsewhere. It's embarrassing. Wait. I'm an addict. What can I say?
Yeah, it's amazing.
I mean, I like the challenge of it. I just like solving those problems.
Well, so that's amazing. And I would love to just ask about both of your processes. I mean, going from being an actor to designing a costume is not a straightforward thing for most people, you know. So what do you think it is when you're given a challenge? Often there's not a whole lot of time to figure it out. I mean, how do you know, Sarah, we'll start with you. How do you approach kind of diving into something new?
Yeah, I mean, I think Kerry really said it's like problem solving, like what needs to be done. I mean, as a producer, I have, you know, filled in as stage manager. I have painted a table yellow several times. I've found a dog replacement actor for a show. I mean, like it's kind of just what really needs to be done. And when I'm taking on like a new role, which most of my time at Live Arts was trying something I'd never tried before, I think that Live Arts kind of is this very special place that really allows you to do that, because one, there are people like Kerry who have done a bunch of those things, and you can ask questions of, and you can say like, have you ever figured out how to make this paper look really old, like it's from biblical times? That's a real question I believe I've asked you. And, you know, how do I make a scroll? To just, you know, staff and other volunteers who are also kind of trying to figure it out at the same time, and just thinking creatively about it. But it is really a collaborative process. And, you know, I think when we get so in our lane of like, this is my role and this is the only thing I do, one, we don't grow, but also I think the art suffers. So I'm very thankful to all the opportunities I had at Live Arts to try my hand, whether I was successful or not at things. And I think it made me a much, much better theater artist because I tried so many different things.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
It's important to say yes. It's just important to say yes to what you can do. You know, that, I mean, I didn't know how to upholster. You've heard of YouTube. That's a lot of it is just the research that you put into it. And, you know, I see it as, okay, I don't know how to do that, but it doesn't mean I can't. It doesn't mean that it's going to be bad either, just because I've never done it before. You know, as I said, I've learned how to bind books and marble paper. I've learned how to faux paint marble and wood and just all sorts of other things. And it's part of it is that you're on this timeline and you don't have time to second guess yourself. You just do it. I'd never made a puppet before. I now have made 18, I don't know, more, because I made some that failed. But, you know, there was no time to say, I can't do this. I'd made the commitment. I had to do it, you know? And there's something about that that's, I mean, I went to architecture school. It's all about, you know, getting it done, no matter what it takes.
So Live Arts is the perfect place for like trial by fire on learning a new skill. It really is.
Yeah, it's like, yeah. I mean, Sarah, you know, your skull. Sarah told me the story about the blood pouring out of a skull into a that needed to be drunk, and the timing had to be perfect, and the blood needed to be drinkable, you know. And well, it's not like you come across that in daily life. You've got to figure
What
it
do you?
But apparently it's very easy to find skull models on Amazon. Amazon is your best friend when you're a props designer, just FYI.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Were there any stories or moments or any sort of last reflections that you all would like to share?
I don't know if it's like necessarily a story, but I think I want to reiterate like how grateful I am. I think, like I said, live arts is a very special place that really allows you to try your hand, whether it's like learning to build in the shop or, a new paint treatment or, wanting to be a costume apprentice. I know that I would not be where I am today. I wouldn't be at Yale. I would not be working in theater if I had not have found live arts, if I hadn't have met wonderful volunteers and staff along the way that were willing to like let me explore and also encourage me to find my artistic voice. Because I definitely, when I stopped performing, I thought, well, I guess I'm no longer an artist. And people like Brie Luck, who the former producing artistic director, really encouraged me to find my voice as an artist, even if it's behind the scenes. And I want to say thank you, and I miss you all. And it's been such an honor to have made live arts like my artistic home.
Thank you so much. That's so beautiful. How about you, Kerry? Any?
Well, yeah, I love doing it. I just love doing it. I love being part of something. I love the community that is built around a show. I love the culture of a show. And, I even love the complaining. I love how we bond over tragedy. I love, the numerous failures, the rehearsals that, where you think this is never going to happen, and then it does happen, the things that you have to do at the last minute. And ultimately, what I have learned, and it's helped me professionally, is how to pivot, how to change my mind, or how to address the situation at hand, how to throw out preconceived ideas and go with what is really necessary. And I was telling Sarah earlier about, I did the props for Dirty Blonde. And at the outset, the director, Chris Courtney, wanted all the props, and they were rehearsing the scenes individually. And the props made sense, and I provided them. And there were tons of props, including sandwiches and bottles of Coca-Cola and all sorts of things. And then we got into tech. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, it's not working. The props aren't working. We don't need the props. Throw it away, throw it away, throw it away. So I made all these props. But because you're part of this whole, what's really important is that the show works. It's not whether I made something or not. It's that you're all making something together. And if the little thing that you made is holding it back from being as good as it can be, throw it away. And, that is really liberating, to learn how to get rid of things, to edit yourself. And, I remember Julie Hamburg was the artistic director at the time, and she said, but you made that. It's like, it's okay, throw it away, get rid of it, and the show was stronger. They had the thing, they rehearsed with the thing, we got rid of the thing. We did the same thing in the show I directed this season. We had a scene at the end where we got rid of all the things, and it became a stronger scene because of that. And, I think that theater is just generally a community building learning experience, learning how to work with other people, learning how to push yourself, and learning how to try new things. Because when you think about it, even every actor is trying something new. Even every musician who is playing on a show is trying something new. Every time a playwright writes a play, it's something new. We're all in this together, making something that really temporal, and
Absolutely.
you have to be there. So, that's the other thing I like about it. When it's over, it's gone.
Yeah. Thank you, Kerry. That's a beautiful metaphor for all of us right now. I think something we can all be working towards as well. So thank you both so much. I'd love to call back Julian, Cristan, and Gwyneth just before we go. Say goodbye to everyone. Thank you so much for being here with us and for performing. It was such a strange and magical delight.
My pleasure. Kerry and Sarah, I mean, you both just really captured the spirit of this organization and theater as an art form in a really economical way in the past, 15 minutes. That was beautiful. Thank you.
Thanks for bringing the show back. I missed it.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Well, best of luck with your next years in school. What happens for you? We'd love to be updated, and Gwyneth, I hope we'll see you again soon too. So to our audience, thank you so much for joining us this evening. It's been such a delight to be here and to share all of this with you. If you feel moved to do so, please help us continue our mission of forging theater and community by donating to our Forge Ahead campaign. And I hope that you will join us tomorrow evening. We will be talking about the 2018 to 2019 season with T. Ames and Adrian Oliver, and it'll definitely be a show you don't want to miss. So have a great evening, everyone, and we'll see you.